Welcome to the second part of our series on Southeastern Europe. This time we're driving up the Adriatic Coast and crossing the mountains to see the rest of the Balkans.
In this episode, our 11-day journey across 7 countries, covering over 3,000 kilometers of the Balkans, continues in the countryside of Albania, with a visit to the castle towns of Kruja and Shkodra, and across the border to the scenic seaside citadels of Budva and Kotor on the coast of Montenegro. Then we'll follow the road upriver and across the mountains to historic Mostar and the resurgent city of Sarajevo in Bosnia-Hercegovina.
So join us, I'm David Celdran, and this is Executive Class.
Our 4th day in the Balkans picks up where we last left off, in Albania. Our hosts from the travel company Albanian Experience are taking us up the scenic route to the fabled castle town of Kruya and making a quick stop for these breathtaking views. And a side visit to a temple of a long-forgotten mystic sect of Islam.
There's so much more to this place than just these panoramic views of Albania and the Adriatic Coast. This is also a holy mountain, and this temple belongs to a syncretic sect of Islam called Bektashi. It's only in this part of the world where you'll find this religion or sect.
The unorthodox mystical beliefs of the Bektashi were considered heretic, but found fertile ground in Albania. The people living on the mountain slopes of Kruya today are mainstream Muslims, but there's more than meets the eye in this former Christian fortified town. Kruya is the site of the fabled Skanderbeg Castle, named after the Albanian national hero who held back waves of Ottoman armies in the 15th century. The castle houses a museum dedicated to the Albanian nobleman George Kastriot Skanderbeg.
From these heights, the Albanian defenders repulsed the invading Ottoman Turk army. It was like a scene out of a movie, 1,500 defenders against 15,000 invaders. Who knows, maybe that story is true. But one thing's for sure, this castle has become a symbol of Albanian nationalism ever since.
Nation above religion. This must explain how a Christian like Skanderbeg became the symbol of a country of mostly Muslims. Skanderbeg held back the Turks long enough for 2 decades, but after his death, Kruja and this part of Albania fell to the Ottomans, beginning a long period of acculturation that lasted until the 20th century. The Ottoman influence is still visible in almost every aspect of daily life and can be viewed up close at the National Ethnographic Museum, housed in an Ottoman villa next to the castle. It's a peek at the past still seen in the old market today. Kruya's bazaar has its share of tacky souvenirs and kitschy knickknacks, but much of what's sold here is authentic and traditional. The lady here is weaving what's known as a kilim. It's a traditional village rug. It's made out of wool, and would you believe it takes 1 entire week just to weave 1 square meter of the rug. Like any Turkish-style bazaar, bargaining is expected. But the prices of these handcrafted kilims are so cheap, haggling is unnecessary, even embarrassing. I believe every time you buy a piece of local art, you're not just helping a craftsman survive, but keeping their culture alive. The drive from Kruja to the border of Montenegro is just over 2 hours, but it's full of surprises. Apart from those crazy bunkers, look out for statues of famous people, like Mother Teresa, an ethnic Albanian born in Macedonia. And wait a minute, isn't that W? Yes, former US President George W. Bush. Unbelievably, his statue stands over George W. Bush Square outside Kruja. There's also a bar named after him, even a bakery, renamed to honor the American president who once stopped over for a snack here. Ironically, after 40 years of communism, Albania is now a NATO country and a great believer in American democracy. Like Bush once did, we're making a pit stop to eat. Shkodra in northern Albania has few attractions to offer tourists, but a quick stroll through its main pedestrian street where a Muslim mosque, Catholic cathedral, and Orthodox church stand across each other is an encouraging reminder that different faiths can coexist in a part of the world known for religious conflict. Late lunch is at a roadside restaurant serving authentic Albanian cuisine in a traditional Ottoman setting. The grill is a central feature of Balkan cooking, as is flatbread, crusty and piping hot. Appetizers like stuffed vine leaves and savory phyllo pastry pies go by different names across the region, and like their sheep's cheese, common in the Balkans. Every town has a local cheese variety, and the milk of sheep is a basic ingredient in every meal. It's served sliced in salads or baked in a clay pot with herbs, meat and rice.
Farm-to-table cooking might be the big thing in the world right now, but here in Albania, it's an everyday thing. Everything we're having for lunch is sourced locally from just a few kilometers away. In fact, I just found out a few minutes ago that they love their food so much that they hardly import anything from overseas. In fact, there isn't a single McDonald's or Burger King in the country. And the KFC, it opened just recently.
And if you love grilled meat, the Balkans is the place to eat.
There's pork sausages, there's pork ribs, there's pork all over the place. And to think they say Albania is a Muslim-dominated society. Now we have to keep on reminding ourselves that religion is expressed differently here. Let's try it.
Lunch, not dinner, is the main meal in Albania, and it's common to have a heavy 3 to 4 course meal. Before crossing to Montenegro, there's an ancient fortress on a hill we have to see. There's not much left of Rozafa Castle, except its outer walls and watchtowers. The castle dates back to antiquity, though what's left are remnants built by the Venetians in the 15th century. But to catch the stunning views of the valley, of the Bojana and Drin rivers, and of Montenegro in the distance is why a trip up the hill in pouring rain is definitely worth it. It's the next day, our 5th in the Balkans, and we hit the road to Montenegro, passing along the Adriatic coastline with a quick stop overlooking this picturesque island. St. Stephen, or Sveti Stefan, was a medieval fortified village built on an islet by Venetians to keep pirates at bay. Today, its walls and single land bridge still serve to keep unwanted guests away. Unfortunately, there is no public access to St. Stephen. You have to be a guest of the Aman Resorts. Yes, that entire island, if you can call it an island, is managed and operated by the Aman Resorts. Budva is Montenegro's most popular beach destination, and in better weather, the 35 beaches on the shores of Budva quickly fill up. And even when it rains, the medieval walled town, Starigrad, with its swarm of narrow cobblestone lanes, squares, and courtyards, is worth a side trip. From the terrace of the cliff-top luxury hotel Avala, you can get the most splendid views of the old town's Venetian red-roofed skyline, here framed by the bell tower of St. John's Church and the defensive walls of the Budva citadel. With the sky finally clearing, it's time to head towards Kotor, another famous Venetian walled city along the Adriatic coast. Once a pleasant pit stop between the popular coastal towns of Budva and Dubrovnik on the Adriatic, Kotor is now on the verge of being overrun by tourists. But not just yet. For now, there's still enough space to enjoy a leisurely stroll through the old town's squares and streets. The narrow medieval alleyways of Starigrad were deliberately built like a maze. the better to confuse pirates and invaders that often attack Kotor Bay. So even with a map, you're likely to get lost. But that's okay. Every lane, every corner of the city reveals something about Kotor's multi-ethnic population and multicultural history. For most of its history, Kotor changed hands between the superpowers of Europe before finally being absorbed under the now defunct Yugoslav Federation. If you have the stamina, a climb up the upper town walls is another highlight of the visit. It's a challenging 4.5-kilometer vertical climb up 1,350 steps to the summit, where the ruins of the fortress of St. John sit. Few make it this far, so you're more likely to enjoy these awesome panoramic views of Kotor in peace. But even if you only make it part of the way, the views of the bay and of the city below are definitely wonderful. Few parts of the Balkans are as well preserved after the war as Kotor is.
Although Montenegro sided with Serbia in the Balkan War of the 1990s, there never was any serious fighting within their territory, and that's why cities like Kotor were unscathed.
Montenegro eventually broke with Serbia and declared independence only recently in 2006. But those ethnic conflicts between Catholic, Muslim, and Orthodox, Croat, Bosniak, and Serb are long gone in Kotor, and their places of worship stand alongside each other for tourists to marvel at and visit. Up next, we cross the Montenegrin border into Bosnia-Hercegovina, where the once war-ravaged cities of Mostar and Sarajevo have made a spectacular comeback. A tour inside Mostar's old town and the streets of Sarajevo's Ottoman quarter when our journey through the Balkans continues after the break.